we get to say hello to Austin Price of Volquest. He joins us each week thanks to Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. Austin, thank you for the time as always. Lance Hurt, what is the latest there as he continues, I think, to be the number one name Tennessee fans are curious about the transfer from LSU?
Yeah, I mean, and that's natural, right, Josh? I mean, you look at Tennessee. I mean, they're kind of waiting on him to, make it official out there. I mean, this has been a more interesting, odd deal, just because Lance hasn't spoken to anybody. You've not heard much out of his camp. Tennessee continues, in my opinion, to be in a really good spot there. I saw some people commenting on John Campbell's video work yesterday where he was seemingly working at right tackle as far as his stance, and a lot of people are speculating. And I think that's a pretty accurate speculation that if Lance Hurd were to end up at Tennessee, John Campbell would shift to the right side. So again, I think you're kind of wondering why this hasn't become official yet, but at the same time, like, it's not like he's been anywhere else. Like, this is a recruitment that's just kind of one of the stranger ones I've seen, especially during the transfer portal era.
You look at Alabama, AP, and some of the players that's hitting the portal there. More recently, Proctor, a tackle. Do you anticipate Tennessee to reach out and try to make contact with some of those players from the offensive line? Alabama, Washington, some of those teams right now that has that portal window open.
Well, Tennessee has spoken with the offensive lineman from Washington, first name Nate, and I don't even want to butcher his last name, but they've spoken with him, and don't think they'll go with Proctor. Proctor's, has been rumored even before he hit the portal to be going back to his home state of Iowa, Jason. So I think that's kind of where this thing's at with Caden Proctor. But yeah, I mean, Tennessee's going to look at all available avenues, much like all these schools are. And, Alabama's obviously kind of in a little bit of panic mode, just because you've had two of their marquee pieces, young pieces, starters this past year as a true freshman leave, in the last, 12 hours. And I think that's cause for concern for anybody in Tuscaloosa.
AP, to have a chance, if you're a school out there, you mentioned, Caden Proctor probably going back to Iowa. We saw with Bond going to Texas and Lane Kiffin putting out a picture or a gif of someone on the Longhorn. Like, you already knew. Those guys already knew where these players were going before they hit the portal. If
Yep.
you are a school like Tennessee, how do you have a chance with a player that hits the portal that may or may not have already picked their school before hitting the portal? How do you have a chance, AP?
Well, if the kid's not decided before he hits the portal, you have as good a shot as any. If a kid's already decided, it's kind of over. Like, very few instances where the kid was like, I'm going here in his mind, and then it ended up changing. Like, there's so much tampering going on, and it's near impossible to prove. I think that's probably where the biggest hurdle for a lot of schools, whether it be, with your own current players or players at other schools, is just the amount of tampering that goes on through intermediaries, whether it be 7-on-7 coaches, high school coaches, aunts, uncles, moms, dads. These schools are getting more and more creative on how to kind of get in the ear of players out there. Oh, you're not happy where you're at. Oh, you're not happy with your NIL. Oh, you're not playing. We'll take care of that. And then, kid hops in the portal, and, what's been rumored before he ever hits the portal ends up coming true, sometimes between 3 and 13 days later, right? I mean, you look at Caleb Williams. He went in the portal. Everybody knew he was going to go to USC, but he took all those faux visits, right? Wisconsin and all that stuff. And then he ends up where? At USC. I mean, you've seen that a lot. Jordan Addison was the same way when he left Pittsburgh. There was all that chatter, about USC. He, then where did he end up? USC after he took a few visits. So some schools try to cover it up with some faux visits, but a lot of them don't even want a kid to get on a visit just because things can change and they don't want that to happen.
Austin Price with us, thanks to Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, Austin Price of Volquest.com and on 3. So Lance Hurd's official decision, mentioned the lineman from Washington. As it relates to the transfer portal right now, is there anything else to pay attention to? And I know that that's a conversation that can be fluid as well, but anything else in the transfer realm that Tennessee's looking at?
Yeah, you have the Stanford defensive lineman, Moy, who will be here this weekend. That's one Tennessee's already went and saw or went and checked in on this week. They Coach Chop was out there. Coach Harbin, he's a QC, defensive QC, has been very instrumental in Tennessee's recruiting. He's out on the road right now with Coach Martinez, having to have a second leg surgery, knee surgery. He injured it when he was on his visit with Boo Carter, I believe it was, back in December. Had to have surgery and then got hit at practice down at the bowl game, so he's had to have a second surgery. So Coach Chop went and saw Moy, over the last couple of days, and he'll be in town this weekend. So that's one to pay attention to, just because at the end of the day, Moy, Lance Hurd, these are all players that you obviously want for 24, but they'll be here for 25, and I think that goes a long way because Tennessee does lose a lot on the offensive line. John Campbell, Cooper Mays, Javonte Spraggins, none of them are eligible to return after this coming season. Same thing on the defensive line with, Omar Norman Lott, Omari Thomas, Bryson Eason, although I think Eason could technically come back because of another COVID year. But, either way, Tennessee's trenches are set to lose quite a bit in 25. So, getting players like Moy, Hurd really goes a long way.
AP, any other schools Tennessee will be battling for Moy, the Stanford transfer?
Well, he was probably going to go to Washington. He had arrived for his official visit up there, and that's when Kalen DeBoer announced he was leaving. Yeah. So, I think they're kind of out. And at this point, I don't know who the competition would be. I think Tennessee's in a pretty good spot here to potentially get themselves a quality interior defensive lineman with a good, strong showing this weekend.
And then Austin Price, Volquest with us. George MacIntyre. How much is Tennessee really just waiting on the sunshine for him to be able to make an announcement, which would indicate Tennessee would get good news? But the latest with George MacIntyre and then recruiting for 2025, because I know that's part of the focus too. Yeah,
it's supposed to have a junior day this weekend. We'll see if all that happens. I mean, is it going to clear up enough for people to get to town? I mean, that's the struggle. I mean, it's going to be above freezing tomorrow for a few hours, and that's about it. Everything else is going to be under freezing until Monday. And so, George MacIntyre was, he never has announced his announcement date, but he was set to do something at the end of this week. And, they're not going to have school at Brentwood Academy. And so, George, I believe, wants to do it in front of his classmates. And so I think you're looking at when Brentwood Academy goes back to school, I think you'll see George MacIntyre make a decision pretty soon thereafter. And again, I've said for months, and Tennessee is in the best shape for George MacIntyre, and I will continue to reiterate that they're in a really good spot for George. And he has a lot of sway with this 25 class. I think mostly because most of the kids in the footprint know who George is, and whether it be David Sanders or Radarius Jackson, Caleb Cunningham, Josh Petty, so on and so forth, Cam Sparks, they know, who George is. And so, Tennessee, whenever George announces, getting good news goes a long way to building that 25 class with GMAC.
Before you go, is there a class to start next week, right? Is there a date Lance Hurd needs to get it done to be on campus? Is there a timeline for fans to follow, as I'm sure they're asking you for updates morning and evening?
Yeah, it's the drop ed deadline. And I don't even remember the exact date on that. Is it the 26th, 28th, whatever it is? I mean, I'm not really worried about all that. I mean, I think, the only, I think this is just a matter of, it's just a matter of just kind of waiting it out. The kid's not went anywhere else. I think if he was going on visits, and Oklahoma seems to have moved on there. So if barring something unforeseen, I would be shocked if Lance Hurd's not playing at Tennessee this fall.
That's all I
Austin
need right
Price,
there.
Volquest.com. That's what fans were looking to hear, as well as they wait to hear official word on Lance, the offensive tackle transfer from LSU. You hear from Austin every week on this show, thanks to Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, making it unique, making it special, making it just for you. They want to be your jeweler there at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs. Austin, we appreciate the time. As always, stay warm out there, stay safe out there, and we'll talk to you again next week.
Josh, next time I talk to you, I'll make sure and I'll send over an autographed picture of Brent Hubbs so you can put it back there behind you and your shot back there.
Yeah, please do. I've got the Braves World Series. I've got a Joey Kent autograph. So the internet goat Brent Hubbs. I'll add it to the wall. Happy to do it.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.